there's a new push to bring mental health resources to Georgia construction sites. Joining us is Bill Anderson, the president and CEO of Associated Builders and Contractors of Georgia, to talk more about it. Good to see you and appreciate the time.
Yes, Cheryl, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, glad to have a chance to talk about this. You know, safety has been a conversation on construction sites for so long, but really more in terms of maybe PPE, hard hats, that kind of safety initiative. This is a safety initiative about mental health. Talk to me about the need for this and why the shift now.
Well, Cheryl, we've been addressing mental health for many years in the construction industry, but we really wanted to focus on this, especially since May is Mental Health Awareness. And one of the things everybody thinks about in construction is safety on the job site, safety goggles, hard hats, gloves. But we are really focusing on the whole body mental health, and that includes mental health issues that we can help within our industry and the workers. Construction can be challenging at times on job sites. There's large equipment, there's tools, and there's, dangers, obviously, for safety reasons. But if a worker comes to the job site as having mental health issues, it's not very apparent. It's kind of like a silent epidemic with depression and anxiety. And if they're not focused on their job, it's not like going into an office, job, make a typo or send the wrong email. On a job site, it can be really affecting other workers. It can be safety issues. There can be injuries. So we really want to see that all our workers are coming to the job sites and don't have any mental health issues. The construction industry has been typically, it's a tough guy stereotype. There's more women coming into the industry, but it is a male-dominated industry, and so there's a lot of long hours on job sites. Some of the job sites, Cheryl, may be far away. Workers have to drive a long way, or they may be away from their families the entire week because the job site may be hours or even in another state. And that can bring mental issues and other areas that need to be addressed with our workers, not just the physical well-being, but to ensure that they are mentally well-being too.
What training are you providing for supervisors, for example, who might then be able to identify something that's unspoken, but be able to then give support? How does that play out on a job site?
Well, Cheryl, one of the things that we're really focused on is ensuring that the mental health, making sure that the supervisors and even the workers understand the challenges they face. And we have a mental health champion at our local chapter here, and they're certified to lead suicide prevention training. They can provide training on the job site or in their offices. We've offered we're going to offer 3 mental health training classes this year. One of them is really kind of excuse my French, but the title is Pause When Pissed. It's a mental health fitness course, and it lets everyone understand it's okay that if they're not feeling the best and with their mental health issues, that it's okay to speak up and tell their supervisor and address it at that point in time. We've partnered with the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. That's a lot to say, but they talk about they have strong enough to care, tough enough to talk classes. They're stressing the 988 suicide prevention line. A lot of people maybe have heard of that, but we really want to ensure that our supervisors and the workers know that that line is there, and that can be critical to helping them through with their mental health issues. And we've partnered with a mental health company to offer classes, and we've even trained our board of directors on this. We have someone here that's a mental health champion in our office, and he can go out and talk to companies and work with their supervisors as well. So there's just a lot of total health human body efforts that we've been making over the years, and we want to make sure that it doesn't just because you can't see it. We know if a worker's not being safe because they may not have their safety goggles on, their hard hats, but it's very hard, if not impossible, to see mental health if someone is having a challenging day. So we want everyone to be comfortable in speaking up about it and letting their supervisors know. I know one good thing is social media and public figures have helped with this effort because they are speaking about it as well. So we want to speak about it in the construction industry because it is just as important as the physical well-being of our workers.
We talked about 250,000 workers in construction across Georgia. Have you done any surveys or research to find out how big of an issue mental health challenges are to that workforce in particular?
Sure, we don't have any numbers on that. We do know that there have been suicides in the construction industry, and it may be higher than a lot of other industries, and that's kind of probably relates back to the challenges that I mentioned earlier about just the long hours, the tight deadlines, even in the summertime, there's extreme conditions with heat, in the wintertime cold. Those are a lot of the issues that can be maybe driving this. And like I said, it seems to be that mental health issues and suicide even probably I think is higher with men than it is women. So being a male dominated industry, that is probably maybe why we have some higher numbers than some other industries.
There has been so much debate over the data centers that are coming to Georgia and across the United States. These huge, massive facilities that are going to bring jobs to the area. That's why we're very excited to be joined by Dr. Victoria Seals talking about this new training program at Atlanta Technical College. Welcome, Dr. Seals. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you just first talk about what this training program is and what it's going to mean for students?
Yes, so at Atlanta Technical College, we partner with some of our industry partners like Microsoft to really lean into the data center need from a workforce standpoint. And so we are training data center technicians as well as those who are working in cybersecurity to be able to take advantage of these pathways that are in high demand careers and that will lead to economic mobility.
Economic mobility is so important for so many students who are coming out of college looking for a job, hoping to find a career that they can continue to move up in. Can you speak a little bit to how this training program is going to help people advance careers and be able to continue to move up?
Indeed. So the entry-level certificates will actually help our students and our graduates get into the workforce. But the beautiful part of how we partner with industry is that each of the students also will have an industry mentor that helps them to really understand not just what it means to work in a data center, but also what the other career pathways will look like as they get into the IT field. So whether it's with Microsoft directly or other companies and partners who are hiring, but it's really the entry into those pathways, and then it helps them to really grow in those pathways so that when we look down the road 2-3 years from now, they're really advancing in those career pathways as well as higher earnings to be able to make sure that they can support themselves and their families.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Can you speak a little bit about the role that data centers play in our everyday lives?
Oh, indeed. I mean, when you think about just the amount of data that we consume and use from every industry, from a security standpoint, from financial institutions, everything that we touch, all the streaming platforms, cloud computing, every aspect of our lives, because we're such a technological world now. And so the data centers are really the hubs that make sure that that data is transmitted with speed, as also as that it is kept safe, in terms of guarding your personal information. And so the data center is really, when we used to say it's the future, is here now. And so we're proud to be part of helping to train the workforce to make sure that our communities are able to grow with these different technological advances.
Yeah, we are living in the future. Can you talk about the type of jobs that students can train for?
Indeed. So at Atlanta Technical College, we have several, we support all the different industries, but for the data center in particular, it's the data center technician as well as a specialist. And so they're able to progress along the way, as well as we do training and networking and cybersecurity. So they get intro into the full system. And we also are engaging in partnerships that will help on the construction side, from the regular construction pieces, but also the high voltage uh, electrical parts that will also go into building the data centers. So whether they're building it or helping to support it, we're providing those pathways for our students to engage in.
What type of salary growth or career potential do people have in these fields?
Well, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is that we are not training people to be in poverty, coming out making upwards of $50,000 a year and being able to rapidly advance in their careers. And so when they are looking 2 or 3 years down the road, they are, upwards of 60, 70, $80,000. Again, economic mobility and really being able to sustain themselves and to sustain their families as they're wanting to live here in the metro Atlanta area. And so they're going to be able to afford to do that.
Yeah, that is so important. Can you talk about who this program is built for? Is it high school grads, college grads, veterans? Who should apply?
Everyone should apply. So really, it's for those who are straight out of high school. Some of our certificates, they can actually engage while they're in high school as far as dual enrollment goes. But it's also for a career changer, maybe someone who is looking to get into the IT field because they want to make a change in their career. We're definitely veteran friendly, military friendly. So we encourage our military veterans to seek this out as well, particularly if they've had a technical job while they were in the military. So it has a little something for everybody. So we do a good job on the front end, advising the students and making sure they understand what the career pathway will look like and making sure that it aligns both with their interests as well as with their aptitudes.
Yeah, if somebody is interested in a career in tech and they might not be too tech savvy yet, where would you tell them to start?
Well, again, we have entry level. We do a lot of programming on just through our economic development arm. And a lot of those courses, the intro courses, are free. So they can kind of get their feet wet and see if that's something that, they really want to engage in. And sometimes, again, we know that sometimes, particularly our older or more seasoned, I should say, citizens may think that, shy away from technology. But we have classes at those intro levels to really go at different paces so that each individual can decide if this is really what they are interested in and if it's a good fit for them. So we do a lot of advising to ensure that the career pathway that our students are choosing is indeed in alignment with what their interests are, what their aptitudes are, and where they see themselves being able to grow into as they get into their career pathways.
School is letting out for the summer, and doctors say summer fun for those kids can quickly turn into ear pain. From swimmer's ear to painful plane pressure to loud concerts and fireworks, there are some simple steps parents can now take to protect your child's hearing. Dr. Timothy Ryan with WellStar joining us to break down what families need to know. All right, so Dr. Ryan, when parents think of summer safety, they may think sunscreen. We're talking hydration. Why should ear safety be on that list? I've never thought about this.
Yeah, it's something most people don't think about, and sunburns are very important over the summer, but protecting our hearing is one of the most prominent public health issues that we see today.
And so what's the most common summer ear issue you treat in children, and what usually causes it?
Right, so when we talk about summer ear issues, we talk about hearing loss from fireworks shows, loud concerts, sporting events, and then we can also get infections in the outer ears with things like swim teams and lake swimming.
And so how quickly can a fun day at the pool turn into painful ear problems? Because pool days, kids can turn into a raisin out there. They don't want to get out of the pool.
Pretty quickly. So what ends up happening is you can get some water down in your ear, and our ear is pH balanced. And what that means is that there's a level of bacteria on each side that is in balance that needs to make sure that our ears stay healthy. If we get water, or pool water specifically with a lot of chemicals, it'll throw that balance off. And within a couple of hours, that bacteria can overgrow, start to cause ear pain, swelling, and drainage.
Are kids more vulnerable to ear infections or ear pain in the summer compared to adults?
I think it's an exposure issue. The kids are in the pool more probably than the adults are. They love swimming. They tend to get closer to speakers. They tend to not have that understanding of how to protect their ears. So it's very important that parents redirect and give their kids the information on how to do so.
Speaking of protecting your ears, we do not own a pair of earplugs for the pool. Do you suggest that?
Most of the time, swimming is very safe. Some people, young and old, can have a predisposition to get those ear infections. So if you do, earplugs are the best way, avoidance. But if you do get some water down in your ears, I tell patients to keep it simple. You can run a fan or a dryer on a cool setting and just evaporate the water out of your ears. There are some over-the-counter drops that people like to use, but we typically recommend to avoid those because in certain cases, those can throw that pH balance or the bacterial balance in your ear off as well.
So, okay, I have a confession, and I am so afraid to tell you this. I have an addiction to cotton swabs. A lot of people grew up using cotton swabs. What should families be doing instead? Help me out here.
Yeah, nothing smaller than your elbow in your ear. That's what I tell all of our patients. That's right. So earwax is healthy. Earwax pH balances our ears and then protects our ears from the environment. Now, too much wax is a bad thing. And if you're getting hearing loss or significant drainage, that's the time to get evaluated. But ear candling, Q-tips, bobby pins, definitely not recommended to go down because those will just do damage or push the wax further in.
Oh, you clocked me there with the bobby pin. If I don't have a cotton swab, I'm reaching for a bobby pin. Okay, So for parents who may hear this and want to take their child's ear care more serious, what symptoms should send them to urgent care instead of just kind of waiting it out?
Yeah, so persistent pain, drainage, definitely redness or swelling of the ear, or if your child complains of hearing loss that lasts for more than about 24 hours.
Okay, and just really quickly here, have about 30 seconds before a family, heads out to the pool, get on a plane, fireworks show. What will be those key simple things that they can do?
Absolutely. So avoidance is obviously the best. If you're in a loud environment, use earplugs or music earplugs that let the good sound in and keep the bad sound out. Let your kids swim. If they have problems, then you can practice avoidance. And then on the airplane, you can have your child or you yourself can chew gum on the ascent or the descent, and that will help equalize the ears.
Between Ebola and hantavirus, we have had a couple of rare but serious viruses pop up here, and they've been newsworthy for the last couple of weeks. And they are raising some bigger questions about just how ready we are if something even more contagious emerges. So let's jump into all that this morning with M.G. Finn, a Regents professor at Georgia Tech's School of Chemistry and Biochemistry. Dr. Finn, it's great to have you on the show this morning. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Good morning.
So we have two viruses to unpack here, hantavirus and Ebola. What do you want people to understand about them and the risk for us here in the U.S.?
So the risk is low for both of these cases. So I would want people to be reassured in that context. But I'd also want people to be made aware that our general ability to respond to these kinds of challenges, and they will keep coming because that's what viruses do, our general ability is seriously degraded by the cuts in CDC and our withdrawal from the World Health Organization. But for these two viruses, right now, people in the U.S. should not be worried. Should be aware, but not worried.
Okay, so let's dive into that a little more about our preparedness and where you find us right now compared to, say, at the start of COVID.
Sure. So actually a good example is the most serious Ebola outbreak in 2015-2016, in which the CDC had people on the ground in Africa right from the start, which the infrastructure there was much better developed. And we were there to help figure out what was going on and to coordinate responses. And that ability of the CDC has been seriously undermined. And unfortunately, it's a short short-sighted posture because, of course, viruses can be transmitted and can travel all over the globe with modern travel abilities. Viruses keep mutating. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what they do. And we had built a very strong infrastructure to monitor and deal with these kinds of challenges. And we need to rebuild that.
So if you had 5 minutes with a policymaker right now, what would you be telling them?
Well, I'd be telling them that it's penny wise and pound foolish to ignore the rest of the world and claim that you're saving money when, in fact, these kinds of threats are best dealt with as early as possible. And research into these kinds of diseases and response mechanisms needs to continue. This is only for the good of the world and the good of the United States.
Tell me about some of the research that you're doing right now and how it relates to viruses.
Sure. So my laboratory and many others here in Atlanta, and I should mention, Atlanta is a real strength, a real center of immunology research. We try to develop new vaccines against things like drug-resistant bacteria and viruses. We do this at a very basic level, studying the immune system and trying to make new vaccines, such as, of course, the COVID vaccine was a wonderful example of this, which came, of course, from other laboratories. But there are many laboratories in the world that try to make new vaccines to tackle different challenges because vaccines are the most efficient way we know of to prevent and treat infectious disease.
You know, I was on your website this morning, Finn Research Group, and I read how you use chemistry and biology to attack, quote, some of the most important problems of today. What do you think those problems are?
Oh, my. You don't have enough time for that on this broadcast, but I will say that fundamental science that interrogates or asks questions about how biology works, how infectious disease works, that's the underpinning for all of the developments of new drugs and new vaccines and new medicines that you see. And the United States is among the world leaders in this kind of fundamental science. We need to be investing more in it, and that really does help. Really helps the human condition. So we work really hard. We have a lot of people, and we have a lot of fun doing it because we're really challenging ourselves. But this kind of research is what makes all of these other developments possible.
And you have young students helping you out, too. I mean, is that important, getting a youthful perspective on things, maybe some new ideas in the door every year that you wouldn't normally get?
Absolutely. One of the best parts of the research life, if I may be so bold as to call it that, is that you get to work with people who come in with no preconceived notions. They are learning. They become the world's expert in the things they're studying, and they have ideas that constantly amaze me, things I would never have thought of. And my biggest job is to help nurture the development of those minds.
Yeah, and what a time to be studying these things. I mean, if I could go back to hantavirus real quick, because it's been a few weeks since that cruise ship outbreak. And of course, we saw a couple of potential patients brought here to Emory Healthcare in Atlanta to be evaluated. Turned out it was just a scare for now. But if you could just take a step back and grade how we as a nation handled that moment, how would you grade our preparedness and reaction to the hantavirus scare?
I think we did fairly well, given the limited resources that we now have available. I should mention Emory and the CDC, absolute treasures of the country and the world to be able to handle cases like this. And you saw this in the particular hantavirus outbreak, where the facilities at Emory, the staff there, the facilities and expertise at the CDC are just perfect to meet the moment. So we did fine. This particular virus was not terribly dangerous, not nearly as transmissible as COVID, for example, although more deadly, but the transmissibility is the key feature. And so this was if I could say so, a relatively easy outbreak to deal with. Still a challenge, still something to worry about, but we did pretty well. We need to keep being prepared for more of them because they will keep coming.
What about on the global stage? How prepared are we as a human race for the next big virus?
So I cannot overemphasize how damaging the United States withdrawal from the World Health Organization and the gutting of USAID has been to global preparedness to combat infectious disease. Ebola is actually an excellent example of the disparities that happen in Ebola cases in developed countries with robust health systems. Ebola is still very dangerous, but much less fatal than it is in countries that have an underdeveloped healthcare system, that are rife with conflict and where people can't get in to provide help. Those environments are exactly where USAID and the World Health Organization, the WHO, operate best. And as a point I made earlier, even if all you're interested in is our own self-interest, and I would hope that most of us are not, but even if that was your only criterion, it makes no sense to withdraw from these parts of the world, because those are where the emerging infectious disease threats are most likely to develop, and then they travel. We're much better off than we were 100 years ago. If you're talking about the global preparedness, we know a lot more. There are a lot better tools available, but we're not as prepared as we were 5 years ago, let's say. And we can rebuild this. It's something that we can do much better.
Final question for you, because we are seeing this Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Their soccer team is actually coming here to Atlanta for the World Cup in just a few weeks. What kind of extra screenings or extra scrutiny will those team members and any fans be undergoing as they travel here to the U.S. and Atlanta?
Yes. So fortunately, although there are no vaccines or medicines for this particular outbreak for this particular strain of Ebola, there are good diagnostic tests. So it's easy and quite confident to screen people coming into the country for whether or not they have the disease. And so I'm sure all travelers, as we've heard in your previous report, from that part of the world are being screened. Once they get through that screen, I would welcome them with open arms.
Pope Leo XIV is putting artificial intelligence at the center of his first major teaching document. In the encyclical released yesterday, the Pope warns AI is not just a tech issue, but a moral test for humanity, with the power to reshape work, war, truth, and human relationships.
Artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed. The word is strong, I know, but deliberately chosen, because this moment needs words capable of attracting attention, awakening consciences, and indicating paths forward for humanity.
Added to this, the encyclical carries a historic apology for the Vatican's role in legitimizing slavery. So let's look at what's behind this move by Pope Leo with Susan Reynolds, Associate Professor of Catholic Studies at Emory University. We thank you so much for being with us here this morning. This is a really deep, layered sort of conversation, so your expertise is really weighty here. For the layperson or the non-Catholic, what is an encyclical? Let's start there.
An encyclical is basically a major document written by the Pope and published not only for Catholics, but also for all people, typically on an issue of social or spiritual importance to the whole world today. So that's what we see here. This is written in the tradition of other papal encyclicals, taking Catholic social doctrine and putting it in conversation with the kinds of questions that are emerging from major political, economic, technological shifts.
And speaking of that, why is it significant that Pope Leo chose artificial intelligence sort of as the centerpiece here of this first major teaching document?
It's interesting. He was really signposting this from a year ago when he was elected Pope. He took the name Leo very explicitly after the last Pope Leo, who published the first major, what we call social encyclical, socially oriented document of the Catholic Church, saying the Church isn't only concerned with people's sort of inner spiritual life, it also has something to say about the rights of workers, about economic conditions, about labor. And Pope Leo at that time time said the major issue today in terms of labor and human rights and technological shifts isn't the Industrial Revolution like it was 130 years ago. Today, that revolution is coming in terms of AI. So we've been anticipating this document for the past year.
And so the Pope's central argument seems to be that technology must serve human dignity. What does that mean in everyday terms?
That's exactly right. And in fact, that's sort of the thesis statement, I guess you could say, of this document. What he's arguing here and what the church's social teaching argues consistently is that economies, political systems, technological advancements should serve human beings, not the other way around. They should serve the good of all, especially those on the margins, not just those who are making a profit or those who are, responsible for calculating, the GDP of a country. If we lose sight of this, he argues, and I think there's a real temptation with AI to lose sight of this fundamental responsibility of economies to serve people and not the other way around, then we get into a kind of society where we look at people and judge them and value them solely on the basis of what they produce. We end up looking at people who are weak, who are vulnerable, who are elderly, who are children, and valuing them less because they don't produce economically. And what Pope Leo is saying, what the Catholic Church states, is that no, human dignity is intrinsic. It's not about what you produce economically. It's about who you are as a person fundamentally. And the risk of AI and the sort of systems and algorithms that it relies on is that it sort of dehumanizes, instrumentalizes people, and often preys on the weakest of society.
And I think that speaks to the transition into slavery. Him including the historic apology for the Vatican's role in legitimizing slavery. Quickly, what does this appear to talk about here as he goes further in making this different? What makes this different this time, him mentioning that?
Yeah, it's really interesting that he included it in this document too, because he explicitly connected the tendency of AI to distort our understanding of the human person to the ways that even the church has been complicit in justifying slavery in the past.
With college costs soaring, a lot of Georgia parents trying to figure out how early we just have to start saving for our kids' future. The answer could be a 529 account, hence 529 Day. Joining us now, Bethany Wetzel, to talk all about it from Georgia's Path to College 529 plan. Bethany, good morning. Nice to have you on the show.
Good morning, Dan. Great to be here.
Okay, so let's just start simple for folks not familiar with the 529 plan. What is it and who can open one?
Okay, a 529 plan is a tax advantage way to save for college expenses, and specifically in Georgia, Path to College is Georgia's official and only 529 plan, and it offers triple tax benefits. So you get tax deferred growth on earnings, and you get tax-free withdrawals on when you withdraw for qualifying education expenses. And then in Georgia, if you're a Georgia taxpayer, you get a really generous state income tax deduction. So it's a way for people to save for qualifying education expenses, and it's never too early or too late to start.
So it really makes sense to put money in the 529 plan as opposed to a brokerage account or just a plain old traditional savings account.
Correct. So the thing about a 529 plan is that it is an investment account. So there's several investment options that you can choose. And if you put it in a brokerage account, you're going to be paying taxes on earnings, but when you save in a 529 account, it's tax deferred. And if you withdraw it for qualifying education expenses, there are no taxes on that earning. So you are getting the benefit of not paying taxes, and then that means more money you're saving, and the benefit of compound growth with the money that you are saving within an account. So that's what's really special about a 529 account, is those tax advantages.
All right, Bethany, I think a lot of folks out there are in the same position as I am. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Great.
I have a 529 account through you all for the 1-year-old.
Awesome.
And then Virginia one where we lived previously with our 3-year-old. All this to say, I am trying to save for college right now with many years to go. Right now, UGA costs about $30,000 for in-state tuition. By the time my kids could be ready for UGA, it'd be more like $50,000 to $60,000 if we continue at this pace. I mean, do you think that's realistic, that I should be saving for almost $300,000 worth of schooling 20 years down the road?
If you want to fully fund, someone's college savings account to be able to pay fully for the expenses, then that's not outside the realm of possibility that college expenses could be that high. However, one great thing about a 529 plan is if you happen to be lucky enough to save more money than needed for college, there's an opportunity to roll it over to a Roth IRA for that beneficiary, or you can also transfer that money to another beneficiary. So there's a lot of opportunities. It's not just if you save too much money, which we hope people do or are able to, there's opportunities to get that money out and still get those tax benefits and not have to pay earnings. So the money's not just stuck in a 529 account if you happen to save more than needed.
Yeah, so I believe there is a cap, though, for the Roth rollovers right now, and perhaps that cap could be, adjusted as the years go on for inflation. But what is it right now?
It's $35,000.
Okay. But it gets the kids a nice leg up if they choose not to go the college route. What about trade schools? Can you put the 529s towards that?
Right. So actually, just in the last year, with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the uses for 529 funds have really significantly expanded. So trade school, apprenticeship programs, materials that you need. Maybe if you wanted to be a barber, you can use money to do that. You can use funds up to $20,000 a year for K through 12 expenses, and that includes tuition, educational therapies, tutoring, test fees. So really the uses for 529 accounts has expanded beyond just your traditional 4-year college. So trade school, technical school, apprenticeship programs, credentialing, it's really a wide array. Now I like to call it's really path to career now rather than just path to college. So.
Well, let me ask you about that because with all the disruption from artificial intelligence, a lot of folks are wondering what higher education is even going to look like 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So you say path to career. I mean, how should we be thinking about funding higher education as we know it now?
So as far as an individual saver?
Yes, exactly.
So I think, it really is an unknown landscape, but I see that still the value of a college education or some kind of training, whether it's trade school or some kind of specialized skill, is still going to be needed. So I think still the need to be able to fund that. I think, again, there's many different paths to whatever career someone ends up taking, but I still think that there's going to be, beyond high school, there's going to be needs for post-secondary education of some sort. So I think saving for education now as early as you can is only going to help someone in the long run to be prepared for that.
Bethany, as somebody who lives and breathes 529s, is there anything I'm not asking about that you think parents out there should know?
I think, it doesn't matter how much you can save. If you can save $10 a month or if you can save $100 a year, I think about students that come out of school with student loan debt and how much interest gets with that. So even if you're just reducing that amount by $1,000 for someone not having to take out a student loan, that can be life-changing for someone. So it's never too late. It's never, no amount is too little. And the research shows that a child who knows that someone believes in them and has put money into an account, no matter how much that they are showing that they believe in them, that they are more likely to have a successful post-secondary outcome.
And Bethany, real quick, as we show your website here, again, we have that $50 bonus coming up on Friday. But you got a great feature where you can send like a gift code to aunts and uncles and friends and grandparents and whatnot, like for kids' birthdays, and they can easily contribute. Tell me about that.
Yeah, exactly. We have something called UGift where you send, it's a gifting website where family members can contribute to your loved one's 529 account. It's a great way to reduce the amount of toys that you get in your house and really for someone to make a long-term investment. And if that individual lives in Georgia, they can take that state income tax deduction for any contributions made to your child's account through UGift.
Let's just start with what exactly you're proposing and how this idea came about.
Well, it's just that I have asked for a 90-day feasibility study to be done. Well, for a feasibility study to be done within 90 days to actually look at if it is possible for us to privatize the screening services at the airport. And that's all it asks for. It asks if it's possible, how much it'll cost. It also asks for first right of refusal for any TS agent that wants to come over, because at the same time, we don't want to disrupt anyone's lives. But it's just asking for a study to see if it's possible.
Okay, so the TSA agents, the current ones in Atlanta, if this was possible, if this was to be implemented, still a whole lot of ifs between now and whenever this could happen, they'd be allowed to go work for this private security company. Does that mean there'd be no more TSA as we know it at Atlanta?
Well, yes and no. So they will be allowed to work for the company, but they will still have to go through the screening process and be hired. So that is another process. So just for understanding, by federal mandate, TSA is over all security at all airports, private or TSA-led. So TSA will still be over the security of the airport. The privatization of the passenger screeners is actually a program of TSA that already exists. It exists long before anybody putting privatizing TSA into writing. So it is a program operating under TSA, and the private companies would have to follow all TSA training rules and guidelines.
And to that point, I know some airports around the country are already doing this. Have you studied that at all and learned how it's working there?
We have talked to a couple of airports. I have been trying to schedule a visit to actually go and see, but I have been able to get the knowledge over the telephones and emails. But, you know, at the end of the day, my customer are the ones that actually uses the airport. And those are the ones that you saw in your news stories standing in line 4 or 5 hours, trying to handle a situation that we did not create and we had no control over. So that is what I am looking for as a leader of this city, to see how we make our customer experience better.
Yeah, I mean, we all saw those long TSA lines in recent months during the various government shutdowns. I'm curious to know whether that optic kind of played into your reasoning for wanting to explore this.
Well, you know, as we talk about the final straw, what a lot of people don't realize, I actually worked for the city of Atlanta several years ago on the security team at the airport. I have been in the security business for the last 20 plus years, so I have a unique perspective on security, airline security, and very special, unique perspective by working at the airport. So seeing this over the years, understanding that this have unfortunately happened over the last 2 to 3 years consistently, it is time, like I say, us as leaders, if there's a better way to do something better for our customers.
So tapping into that experience, being a former, small business owner of a private security company as well, I'm curious to know what you think specifically private security can do better than government-run security.
Well, to be completely honest, the only thing that'll be different is that they would not be tied to a governmental shutdown or a governmental budget. All of the training that this private security company will have to follow will be drawn up and designed by TSA. So the only thing that you will see different in services will be the uniform. And actually in some airports, the uniform are the same, just the patch on the uniform is different. So the biggest thing that the difference will be is they will not be subject to governmental shutdowns.
So who's going to pay the salaries? And let's say one of the screening machines needs to be replaced a few years down the road. Who foots that bill?
Well, all of that comes once again in the feasibility study to see. We ask for the ins and out of it to see what would take place, how much it would cost us, who would pay for it, the biggest thing, because there's one thing I am not trying to do is to create another bill for the passengers and the taxpayers of the city.
What would the alternatives be if not taxpayers?
Well, I mean, the ultimate answer will be for our federal government to listen to us and remove TSA out of the general budget for Homeland Security into a protected fund to no matter if the shutdown happens or not, they will continue to work. Because at the end of the day, we're still asking people to come to work without being paid. So that would be the ultimate goal. The second thing would be just to keep the airport lines moving, to stop my 60 and 50-year-old passengers from standing in 4 to 3 hour lines for a situation that we just totally don't control.
You know, it passed almost unanimously, this feasibility study last week, 11-1, with you and 10 of your fellow council members voting to pass this through, wanting to look at this over the next few months. Councilwoman Kelsey Bond was the only one on council to vote against it, saying that the privatization of TSA is part of President Trump's Project 2025. She even said she received some emails from concerned citizens about all this. What do you say in response to that?
Well, I have received the same emails, and the first thing as being a leader, I have to educate. As I mentioned, this program has been a part of TSA program before Trump won, long before Project 25 even came into existence as far as in the public existence. So this program has been around and operating for years. It's just people have, they have truths, and it is up to me as the author of the paper to actually give them the whole truth.
Okay, so I guess the next question is what happens next? You'll get the findings back in a short 90 days. I mean, this summer's going to go by fast with everything happening in Atlanta. What happens once you receive this study and it hits your desk?
Well, I mean, it'll be shared with the Transportation Committee. Either we will accept it and file it, accept it and move on the recommendations in it. So then it really gets fun after we get the report back, because it will hopefully tell us if, one, first and foremost, if it's possible. The second is how much it'll cost. So there has to be a lot of things that still need to align for it to actually happen.
I'm curious to know if you or anybody you know were trapped in some of those long lines in recent months at TSA from the government shutdowns.
Well, fortunately, I was not trapped, but because I avoided the lines by picking the right time to go and luckily didn't have any flights during that time. The flight was actually canceled, come to think of it. So I was not stuck, but I do have a couple of my colleagues that say they was out there at the time. The lines wasn't that long, but they were still a standing period.